Welcome, everyone. Who's having fun so far? Nice. All right. I am Rhonda from the Berkeley Haas Entrepreneurship Program, and I just want to welcome you guys and thank our sponsors tonight, Davis Wright and Tremaine and Rabobank. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. So we're going to start out the program. Is George Roche here? George was going to talk about our recently completed Food Venture Lab. We're going to have two speakers from that, two very quick pitches, just to give you a little taste of what everyone learned in the class. So is Elvina here? Can you grab her? Tell her she's on. Thank you.
Caroline here?
Right, Caroline's here. Caroline, do you want to go first? Pardon? Actually, George isn't here, so we're just going to let you pitch. But the Food Venture Lab was a first-time class that was held this year where students from all over the campus could come together and work on their food ventures. So, okay, Elvina and Erica, do you guys want to go first?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thanks.
All right, so I'm Erica, and I'm a pharmacist.
I'm Alvina, I'm a nurse, and I'm also here at Haas. Woo, getting my MBA.
So together we co-founded Just For You Genetics.
So Just For You Genetics is revolutionizing the way people are thinking about food. And how we're doing that is making personalized nutrition a reality.
So if you look at Alvina and me, you see we look pretty similar. But if you were to take us out to a bar and we both had drinks, you would see that my face would stay normal and Alvina's.
I'd be a stoplight.
So she can attribute that to a SNP, and a SNP is called a single nucleotide polymorphism. It's a change in one of your base pairs in your DNA. So when that happens, when Elvina has a beer, RS671 gets turned on. But for me, I don't have that SNP, so nothing happens to me.
So not every SNP is this obvious, right? And what's really, really important is that the ones that are more important for your health and can lead to chronic illness are things that are actually way harder to test for. For example, we have the APOE34, and for some of you that we've already spoken to, that SNP can put you at higher risk for cardiovascular disease and higher risk for Alzheimer's. And what we want to explain to people is that what you choose to eat can actually turn that genetic marker on and can turn other ones off. And so really rethinking about what you put in your body and how you can benefit from your foods is something that we really want to communicate to the world.
And so when you look at food, you see food, but we see preventative medicine, and we see the ability to actually change your life and really help you stave off the effects of chronic disease. And that's what our goal is.
Thanks. So our last ask, I guess we might as well throw it in there, is we're at the point where we have an MVP. We're starting to think about how we can do some seed funding. And we're going to raise some money starting pretty soon. And if anyone has any ways that they want to help, we're looking for advisors, mentors, and some funding. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. And you can try their bar that they've developed for this genetic mutation or defect. You can try it just right outside. And also, just to let you know, Elvina was in one of the really successful teams on Launch last year. Launch is coming up again this year for all of you. Just want to let you know that applications just opened. So please go to our site, launch.berkeley.edu. And George is going to tell you a little bit about the Food Venture Lab. He was the GSI.
Great. Thanks, Rhonda. All right, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It's amazing to see the turnout for the food events and the kind of the interest that Berkeley has for food. So last night we actually concluded our pilot program of an on-campus accelerator program for food entrepreneurs specifically. And it was the first cross-listed program across the executive evening weekend and full-time MBAs. And it was a huge success. We expected about 20 people, and we ended up getting 62 participants with 14 different teams. And Elvina was actually one of the teams that concluded with a pitch last night. So I got to hear that again tonight, and I think it's even better. So I just wanted to inform you about what the program is, and it's going to be in the spring through the Food Business School, which will be hosting, and it'll be back at Haas in the fall for anyone who's interested. So thank you.
Thanks, George. Now we're going to hear from Caroline Ye, who was also one of the top teams in the Food Venture Lab.
Yay. Thank you. Hi, guys. My name's Caroline. I am an exec MBA here at Haas, and if you talk to me outside, I'm also the director of products of Bandar Foods. So how many of you guys have used pot? Okay, that's surprising. Okay, how many of you are just not raising your hands right now because you're embarrassed? Okay, a few more. All right, so for the last 10 weeks, my team, A Little Luck Edibles, looked at the recreational pot business here in California. So we were basically researching what will happen when California legalizes recreational pot here. Now, medical marijuana has been legal since 1996, but by all indications, the state is gearing up to legalize recreational pot by 2016. So my team was looking at how will the existing marijuana industry adjust and what challenges are they going to face as recreational pot market opens up. So we decided to focus on 3 different areas. We want to look at product, market, and legal. So in terms of market, the people who generally use recreational marijuana are actually quite different from medical marijuana users. They tend to have not used it for a very long time, and they tend to also be very unaware of the different types of cannabis and the range of products that are available. They're also not looking for these very high dosing products which medical marijuana users are looking for. So ultimately, what these types of customers are looking for are low dosing, beautifully packaged, great tasting product. And above all, what we discovered is they want safety. They want to make sure that the products that they consume are well dosed and that they're tested correctly. So at A Little Luck Edibles, the company is about awesome people, excellent products, and uncompromising safety. Our products are going to include a very large educational component so people know what ingredients go into their products and also how they can correctly dose themselves. And to ensure consistency in dosage, we're going to lab test all of our products. Now, on the legal side, as you can imagine, it is an incredibly convoluted area right now. I was actually speaking to one of our sponsors from Davis Wright Tremaine about this earlier. And one of the biggest problems right now is the conflict between federal and state law. Under federal law, marijuana is still illegal. Under state law, it's legal medically in some areas, it's legal recreationally in some other areas, so there's an enormous amount of confusion in this area. And these laws are constantly evolving. So about 3 weeks ago, the state of California just adopted a new set of laws, which is actually going to disrupt the current medical industry enormously because they have actually eliminated vertical integration. So as a business, what this means is we have to keep an eye on the constantly shifting legal landscape, and that's something that we're going to be incorporating as part of our business. So thank you guys very much.
Who loves Berkeley? Come on, give it up. That's awesome. Thank you, Caroline. Okay, we are going to hear from Adrian from Big Ideas. And if you don't know Big Ideas, it's one of the premier competitions across the campus. Adrian's going to tell you a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian. I'm this year's contest coordinator for Big Ideas, and I'm here to give one final plug for all of the food entrepreneurs in this room to apply and submit a proposal before our November 12th deadline, which is exactly 1 week from now. So for those of you who don't know what Big Ideas is, it's an annual student innovation contest that's open to undergraduate and graduate student teams who want to develop some kind of social innovation to address a pressing social issue. And each year we give away $300,000 in prizes. How it works is that in the first semester, students submit a 3-page pre-proposal. That's the deadline next Thursday. And then in the next semester, they'll submit a 10 to 15-page proposal after being paired with a mentor. So you're eligible for $10,000 for your proposal if you win, and you can win an additional $5,000 from other types of funding support. And we really wanted to talk to this crowd because we know that all of you are probably involved in some kind of food project, and we have a food systems category which is perfect for you, but we also have 8 other categories that you could potentially apply to. So if you're interested, visit us at bigideas.berkeley.edu, send us an email. We had materials outside, and we'll leave a few for any of you who want to pick something up. And for all of you who are in the community who aren't students but want to get involved with student innovation, please also just go to our website. We have judge and mentor opportunities available to you too. So we hope to see all of your proposals next week. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. So one more shout out. I just got a text that I need to announce GSVC. Jill, what is the website for that, please? GSVC.org. There you go. Thank you. Okay, and one other quick thank you is Cynthia Maxey here from B Partners. Cynthia, thank you so much. A lot of you guys, especially the Expo participants, know Cynthia through her work from Food Funded. Others of you know her from B Partners. She's been instrumental in getting everyone here tonight. So round of applause for Cynthia. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get to our panel, and I apologize, I'm going to have to read this a little bit because it's pretty important. Will is going to tell you about the 3 segments of his life as an entrepreneur, educator, and food aficionado, but I want to tell you about an award he was given. It was called the Oslo Business for Peace Award for his work as an educator, and it's the highest honor in ethical leadership for a business person. Bestowed on him by 3 Nobel laureates. So not only is he an awesome moderator, he's a pretty cool dude too. So anyway, Will, where are you? Awesome, thank you.
You know that Caroline was the most popular student in the class because she brought samples every week. So welcome, panel. Is this on too? So we'll try to make this a conversation, and welcome Scott and John and Lisa, and we will chat for a few minutes. I'm not exactly sure, Rhonda, how long you want us to go tonight. Did you say 10:30 or 11? That was. Pardon?
Until they start running out screaming.
Oh, okay, running out screaming. So we always, you're welcome to leave at any time if it gets boring, but we will go to questions and conversation quite soon. This is being live streamed, so if you have a question, I'll ask you to. Thank you. You could have told me to do that. So, okay. We'll come down. There's a microphone here, which will make it possible to get your question on the video too. And just before we get going, I just want to acknowledge Don Buder and Jesse Lyon from Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, our hosts. Can you just wave? They're incredibly helpful, resourceful, and really, really generous and supportive of entrepreneurs, especially with great expertise in food. And also our co-host, Sarah from Rabobank. Where are you, Sarah? Where did Sarah? Sarah's way up there. Sarah works in the San Francisco office. And we're really appreciative of your financial and camaraderie support here tonight. So I thought tonight we're here to talk about food. Maybe just to start, tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now, kind of what's keeping you busy, and maybe share, just a little bit about just briefly, what you're working on, what's keeping you up at night. And tell us about who you are, too. So, Lisa Murphy.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, I'm actually really excited to be here. 2008, when I graduated, I sat in those seats. And we didn't have programs like this about, big ideas, great ideas, and venture capital. So it's really exciting to be back here in this Anderson Auditorium. So my name is Lisa Murphy. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Sosu Sauces. We're a local sauce company based here in Oakland. And Oakland represent. And we make two primary products. I started with ketchup first because I couldn't find a good quality ketchup. And now we've expanded the line to include our barrel-aged sriracha, a Louisiana-style hot sauce, and a spice rub. What's keeping me at night is thinking about new products, thinking about how to expand the business, and thinking about more innovative ways of how we can change the sauce category. Part of the reason why I started the company about 3 years ago is because I was frustrated that there wasn't any good quality sauces on the market. A lot of them were made out of paste. A lot of them were made out of high fructose corn syrup. And so I was just like, ketchup could taste much better than this. So I got some tomatoes and started cooking. And so here we are, and we're thinking about kind of ways of how can we take traditional condiments and sauces and make them better using different process or different ingredients.
So you're 3 years in, and Scott, when did you start Ocho, and what are you working on now?
Yeah, so I'm Scott Kutrek. I'm 1999, so I'm from another century of graduating here. Probably been through 3 layers of seat covers since that time, but I agree. This is awesome that there's this panel here about food. So I've been working, I'm the CEO of Ocho Candy. We're also in Oakland, West Oakland. We love Oakland, so it's good to hear. Actually, Oakland's becoming quite a little food hub for people who don't know. It's really great for Oakland. But so Ocho Candy, we make organic versions, traditional candy bars that taste a lot better than any other candy. Or our goal is to make sure it's the best tasting candy bar you've ever had. It's not going to change the world, but it might make you happy the moment you eat it. So that's a modest goal. I started working with my partner, Dennis Ring, who is vast experience in the food. He knows Don. Actually, Don's our lawyer, so Don's been very helpful. But Dennis created the 365 line at Whole Foods, so he's got a lot of food experience. In the past, when I was here, when I graduated, I started a company called Zip Realty that was fortunate enough to grow to quite a decent size at that time. August 2010 I started. We started selling in fall of 2011, just in Northern California, Whole Foods. We're now nationwide, full unified distribution, a lot of partners. We're building our 3rd plant in 5 years. We do not co-manufacture. We make our products ourselves. And so what's keeping me up at night, and why I was almost late here tonight, was I was talking with my team from Denmark, where we just bought our latest line of equipment. Line is going to be a game changer for us because it increases our capacity from essentially 12,000 bars a day to 12,000 bars an hour. But getting it to actually work, it's breaking new ground for them and us. And we kind of knew that was happening. They dismissed it, and now 2 months later, they're coming to the realization that this is a little more tricky than they had thought. That being said, so what's keeping me up is getting that line up and running, because we're running through a lot of capital that I anticipated we wouldn't be using. And so now I'm going to have to go raise more money again, Don, so I'll be following up. I think Dennis already briefed you on this, but essentially...
we're going to have a securities offering right here tonight.
Exactly. But essentially, what's keeping me up is getting this line up and working before the end of the year to allow us to really expand the category next year and really fill in and get the thing to profitability. 2016 is about getting to profitability for us. And so
Great.
That's it.
And John Foraker goes back even to an earlier prehistoric era. Somebody said to me, "Oh, do you know John Foraker?" I said, "Yeah, I knew him when I was a young man." So that was we met in, I think, 1994.
Crazy food entrepreneurs early on. It's amazing.
And we didn't even have this building.
No.
You were stuck in that other...
I was in Barrows Hall, which was an unfortunate place to go to business school, but it's great to be here again. And So what am I doing now? I'm trying to change the world without blowing myself up at the same time. And what I mean by that is I started a food company between my first and second year at Berkeley, and I've made every single food mistake you can possibly make. And about 15 years ago, I got involved in a little tiny brand on the East Coast called Annie's, and spent the last 15 years building that and took it public and sold it. And so a year ago, General Mills bought it. And so what I've been doing since then is trying to really make sure that brand, the values are protected and that we grow that business, and it's just taking off to a whole new level, which is mind-numbing to me. But more importantly, I'm trying to drive vastly bigger impact for Annie's in the world and also at General Mills. And we're at a really amazing time in food, which I'm sure will come up later, about where, yesterday's villains are not so much anymore and yesterday's heroes are not so much anymore. And the opportunity to drive change in the world in food right now is just incredible. And so I'm really at the front edge of that, I feel like it, and trying to fight that battle. So I'll share more of that later.
And now food is this place where passion and purpose are coming together. It's a place where, as John said, people feel like they can make a difference. And what's really different probably about the time you guys went to business school and what's going on now is that people actually go to business school to do that, to actually make a difference in the world, not become a manager at American Airlines or a consultant at McKinsey. I mean, some people still do that, but there's a lot of people that want to go into food now. But let's talk a little bit about, it's easy to get into, but it's really hard to be successful. So, John, maybe talk a little bit about what are these nuances and idiosyncrasies of the food business that you've learned about, now that maybe, this audience should pay attention to as well. What's unique? I mean, Scott touched on a couple of them, the nutrition aspects, the experiential aspects.
I think food culture binds so many people together, and we live in a hotbed of it. And what's amazing now for entrepreneurs that are starting out is the resources and other entrepreneurs that they can learn from and the networks they can plug into are just so vastly deeper and bigger than when we were starting out. It's amazing. And so I think that is something that binds everybody together, and you can learn a lot. Frankly, other than the product stuff and trying to get product right in the context of values and taste and competing for shelf space and all the stuff that goes with being in the food industry, a lot of it's just basically being an entrepreneur. And I don't think that really matters that much, whether you're in the food business or in high tech or whatever. It's building teams, it's staying ahead of the money, it's having a good plan, it's having a backup plan because your first plan will never work and your third one probably won't either. It's like adapting. So I think there's a lot of commonalities to all startup businesses. I really do. Oh, I think...
Just crime in general.
Oh, no, I think, look, there's shady players in every industry. There's no doubt about that. I would say, the way I'd characterize it, I'd say our food industry was really founded in such a way that you created these big powers selling salt, fat, and sugar, and food values have changed much faster than the companies in the industry have. And right now you have big companies struggling and changing and renovating and trying to get relevant again. And I found, obviously I work for General Mills now. I mean, I found some people will say, oh, boo General Mills or whatever. Truthfully, they're very high integrity people. They're super smart. Do they sell some stuff that I think is gross? Yeah. And do they have some practices that I totally disagree with? Absolutely. But I think in any big established industry, you have that. And right now, the opportunity to change that is just remarkable. I mean, not just companies like that going out and buying companies like Annie's, but actually really renovating what they're doing. If you just Google search the number of companies that have stripped out artificial colors, preservatives, flavors, those things in the last 12 months, it's 100 times what companies were doing 10 years ago, and let alone 5 years ago. And so I just think there's a massive amount of change going on now. And all the people like you starting companies and or getting involved in bigger companies, you can make big change right now.
So Lisa and Scott over here, how do you guys feel about your pathway to scale and exit? John Sebastiani, who's also a Haas grad, started Crave Jerky and developed the company in a lean launch class here, and in about 4 years of really, obsessive, nonstop work, he managed to have an incoming offer, and the company was recently acquired by Hershey. And he was actually at the Food Venture Lab a couple weeks ago, and he was bemoaning actually working for a big company now. But how do you think about this? Is this a lifestyle for you? Is this something that you want to do forever? Or is it, what's the right size for this? Is it infinite growth, or is it something local and special?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
So if I would take that one first. So my background is a little bit different. I started the business about 3 years ago, and actually prior to that, I used to work in high tech. I used to work for an augmented reality company. So food was always my passion. Growing up in a very Chinese family, you would always experiment with food, and I did a lot of travels through Southeast Asia and China. And food and taste and flavors is always kind of what I'm familiar with, but at the same time, it brings me memories. So when I started the business, I didn't have the idea of, I want to become the next Heinz or the next General Mills. I really wanted just to pursue my passion. I was, like I said before, I was really frustrated that there wasn't a good ketchup that tasted like fresh tomatoes. So I went out and made my own. And I think, if you look at our products that we make, it's all very much based on my flavors, my palate, and what I think tastes good. It's not based on science. It's not based on proportions of sugar to salt to, whatever traditional ingredients are supposed to be in food. It's really based on what I make. It's what I'm used to, what I grew up to. And sure, there will be people who doesn't like our sauces. People think the barrel-aged sriracha is too smoky or it's too powerful of flavor. But I'm kind of just doing it my way. And for me,
you're the customer.
I'm the customer, yeah. It's what I like, and if I don't like it, then I'm not going to go sell it.
Do you have any other customers?
We do, actually.
Okay.
We're distributed in about 50 stores in the Bay Area.
Okay.
We're nationally distributed with Sur La Table, and then very soon with Williams-Sonoma.
Great.
We also did a Kickstarter project where before actually we launched the product, we got over 2,000 backers to kind of support our mission and our product, and we raised over $100,000 on the platform.
And that money is really advanced sales on product, right? It's not equity in your company. Kickstarter.
That money actually went straight to ingredient sourcing.
So you didn't tell the customers that.
Oh, we did.
Oh, okay,
we did,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We did.
Because Scott was saying it was such a corrupt industry.
The people are not corrupt.
But you're going to ship them product, right?
Yeah, we did.
What I was trying to get the point was that this was not, you didn't sell stock in your company.
No.
You basically offered people advance purchase of your product.
I offered a promise. I said, hey, we're a small business. Capital is crucial to our business for us to grow. We're too early stage for venture capital. We're too early stage even for a loan, from a bank, because normally a loan takes 3 years in business with some kind of profitability. So, it was our request to the community asking them, hey, we think we got a good product. If you like the product, support us. And when we can deliver the product, that's when you can get your jar of sauce.
And Scott, how did you finance this incredible machine in Denmark? And
that required other investors, but I was fortunate enough, I'm an entrepreneur, so I started a business here. I was fortunate enough that I did not enough to retire on, because when you get 6 rounds of venture financing and you go through the dot-com crash, you're happy to not be washed out. So I always look at the positive side. For me, a company to work, it has to be a product you believe in. I totally agree with what you're saying, Lisa. And a lot of times around April of every year, I'd look in my cabinet and I'd see a bag of candy left over that was from Halloween, and it could have lasted till Armageddon from the last time I checked. And I was thinking, this doesn't make any sense. Can't people make better tasting candy? And when my partner approached me, and he spent 5 years from 2005 to 2010 taking me to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Safeway, saying there's going to be a market here for organic version of traditional candy bars. It's going to be massive. I thought at that time, okay, this is right. This is something I want to commit my time to, and I had family support to do it. And we had the finances, the right team. So I knew he could get us to buyers. I felt confident since I had taken the company from 2 people to 2,000, that I could do that. And the third person at that time had very good recipes. And so that's all I needed, and I wanted to fail fast, as you would say in the newer language. So my family bought off on a year experiment of, it might be a couple $100,000 investment, no salary for a year, and I'll be gone a lot. And then if it doesn't work out, then you always learn something. I always tell people, do it. You can recover. You don't think you can recover, but you will learn a lot and you can recover.
So is a food company more capital intensive than a software company?
Well, it depends when you start the software company. I mean, in 1999, when you couldn't, go in the cloud and you had to buy Oracle servers,
right,
and you pay people that time $300 an hour to code, it wasn't. I built our website for our company, the first website on my own, on like a basic platform for $1,000. It is expensive. So we self-financed because I also didn't want anyone to tell me when I could grow or how fast I had to grow. I went through that already with VCs. Nothing against them. That's what their job is to move you along and get to an outcome that gets their money back to limited partners. But this was going to be Dennis and my project, and he wanted me to run it, and I said, that's how I want to do it. So like you, I wanted to spend time early on because I did know that at the beginning, there's a short window there of a year and a half where you can actually get to know your customers and the different layers of going to the retail store. So I went to every Whole Foods and I got to know the teams and I did demos and I asked people what they really felt about the candy, because if the thing would take off where it's kind of heading now, I can't get the time to do that. So those lessons have to be learned then. And if you have other people's money, they have expectations about how fast you're going to go. And I was fortunate enough to have money, and my partner had money to do that. Now, when we went to build this line, because last Halloween we hit the wall. We had more orders. We got a big order from Safeway of about 500,000 bars. We got a big order from Meijer of about 200,000 bars, all in like a 2-week period. And this is, at that time, maybe we could make 8,000 bars a day. So this is a major backlog. We knew we had to change course. And so we said, well, we're going to have to put in a line. It doesn't really make sense because the amount of revenue we have compared to the CapEx is crazy. It's like 1-to-1. But there was no other way out. And so then we went and raised money. But we didn't go to VCs and they don't want to do that anyways. In the food, there's a food VC environment, which reminds me of the mid-90s of Silicon Valley because it's smaller. It's moved up to San Francisco mainly, and some in Boston and Boulder. But that environment is really geared for safety. Have you crest $10 million in revenue? Once you've kind of crested 10 million, then they'd love to talk to you. Before that, they don't love to talk to you. That's kind of the environment.
Helpful.
Yeah.
So John, and think of some questions now, because I'm going to ask you to come down. But when you go back to Minneapolis, what consumer trends, what global trends are you trying to make sure that your new comrades are really paying attention to? What's changing quickly? What should food innovators really be listening to make sure they don't miss these big waves of change that are being driven? And just to add to that, there's a new book, if you haven't seen it, it's actually on Kindle, but it's called Generation Yum. And it basically says that 50% of the millennial generation identifies as foodies, and that the implications of that from a consumer kind of perspective and a consumer preference perspective is going to be unprecedented in the food industry. So just to throw that in.
Yeah, so I think if you summed it up in the simplest way possible, and there's lots of complexity around it, but it's people want real food. It's as simple as that. They want simple ingredients they understand. They want as few of them as possible. They want as least processing as they can find. They want to trust where the products come from, who makes them, where the products come from. The sourcing is really important, and IDing source. And so that when you think of those things I just said, and then you compare it up to the kind of evil empire like Scott was referring to,
and they want them well lit.
Yeah. But you kind of compare that to like 1980s CPG food, and you understand the difficulty that the big CPG food groups are having now, because that shift has happened so incredibly rapidly, combined with big changes in technology that allow companies like mine and these and yours to be able to talk in an authentic way to consumers that was never possible before, and to be able to be part of the dialogue and to be able to break through. And so that's why it's such an exciting time to be an entrepreneur, because there's so many opportunities at the edges of all those things. And you can build a website for $1,000 and you get a great product, and you can actually be building a brand very quickly.
Well, Boston Consulting Group yesterday had their consumer conference, and one of the key things they said was that it was mission-driven brands in food that were going to break through. And that the big food companies, like the one you're associated with, they've grown up to become portfolios of brands that have been mostly in industrial food assembled around operational efficiencies, sourcing efficiencies, supply chain, some distribution efficiencies. So it's just really interesting now. I'm wondering how you as the CEO are navigating, this integration and being, Annie's, was always thought of as one of those, natural food brands that started over there and really redefined a category and was too small for the big guys to really pay attention to, and now all of a sudden you're
so
part of Scott's empire.
We've had a very strong culture for a long time. We're based in Berkeley, and we moved down here a few years ago, and we have a very strong company culture. It's just as strong as it ever has been, believe me, after a year, and I was skeptical that we could keep it that way. But the reason is because a lot of the people that work for us, it's very much like a food entrepreneur. They're not there necessarily to make money. That'd be a nice side benefit, but they're doing something they love and they want to make an impact. So the people that work for us want to make an impact. And if you sit back and you go, okay, how do I make an impact as a food company? Well, I can source organically. I can convert farmland. I can sequester carbon in the soil. I can create soil health. I can do all these cool things. And if you can do that at scale, there's 5 million acres of organic farmland in the U.S. Like, what if it was 10? There's organic food's like 4% of food. What if it was 20? And you start navigating through like all the potential positive impacts on society that come from that keeps people excited. Even though they're working for a big company now, you know what? That's a pretty big challenge, and that's what's keeping me here. I can make a lot more money doing something else and go start another company, and I'm an investor in a bunch of companies. But I'm here now because I think I can make the biggest impact right here. And working for a big food company, which is crazy. I never would have said that. So I'm going to do that for a while until I feel like I can't make impact anymore.
Last week, Alice Waters was here on campus. Was anybody here at that event? And that was really interesting because she, I won't try to channel her, but her sense of scale was very different. And her sense of impact at a very local sort of precision way by being super committed to a vision and executing it impeccably, she felt had kind of a resonance, through the food system and through consumers' preferences and choices and values, and if I could use the word here at Berkeley, consciousness. It was a very different model for impact and change, and it would be really fun next time we do that lecture to debate this. Where does impact come from? And I think what she challenged the audience to think about was that impact can come in different sizes. And that is certainly for me, that was nice to hear.
When you talk about impact, as a small business owner, I feel like, we are making a lot of impact. Even though our products may not be distributed, in 1,000 stores or 2,000 stores, the products we're making is affecting the food industry. I notice bigger brands noticing when smaller brands come up with an innovative product, and they're changing their ingredients and they're changing their flavors, and the bigger brands are noticing, and they're thinking, well, is that where the new generation is going? Should we be changing our products? So just for example, the first product I ever made is our sriracha ketchup. 3 years ago, I put a trademark on sriracha ketchup. So it's sriracha, it's trademarked. I don't know if I was the first one to make sriracha ketchup, but I was like, there is no sriracha combined with ketchup, so why not make this one? And then I guess maybe half a year ago, Heinz decided to make their own sriracha ketchup. And there's tons of sriracha ketchup out there now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is no small impact is small. Anyone can make an impact, even if you are just one person with one product, making it in your home small kitchen. This is what you're doing, and as you are growing, you will make an impact.
And just a couple weeks ago, General Mills announced the creation of their own venture capital fund and incubator to actually try to get closer and more collaborative with these early stage companies. So that, to John's point, could even accelerate the impact, and the scale more. There's, a lot of competing visions for the way the food industry is going to develop. To me, that's what's most interesting right now is, is it going to be about local food systems, or is it about feeding 9 billion people, or is it both? Is it about artisanal and personal expression? And, if we look just in the Bay Area at the proliferation of new restaurants and chefs that are celebrities, and food is a great experience now, or is it trying to figure out how to get enough of a nutritious, product into the hands of people that are undernourished? So there's just what's fascinating to me, and what was so interesting about the Food Venture Lab was the broad range of interesting problems and challenges that people were taking on. So, in a future life, do you have an aspiration of some problem you'd like to tackle, or are you?
Oh, I think I love like sustainable agriculture and elevating that to a level where it's viewed as good or a better alternative than a lot of the chemical-based ag systems in the world. And I think there's a lot of research that says that can happen. It just needs to happen at scale to have the kind of impact to deal with 9 billion people, So I think that's probably going to be my life's work.
That's such an exciting area. I mean, there's a lot of innovation now in plant-based protein. There's a lot of initiatives focused on getting, plants to the center of the plate and meat and fish to the side of the plate. I mean, this is going to be a huge growth market, I think, in terms of a tectonic shift in food in the next few years. Anybody got a question that they want to come up, or you're just so entertained right now that... Come on up and just run down the stairs as quickly as you can without falling. And if anybody else has a question, come up right behind her so we can get a couple of questions out to the panel that we can talk about. Just introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Yukti Oberoi. I and my friends sitting out there, we started a company called Yumbox, and it's about delivering ready-to-eat food to families who are very busy, so for weekdays. So both of us are mom, and just celebrating weekdays is kind of like our mission. So my question is, what tips you guys can provide about building like a social community around a mission? So whether it's on Facebook or blogging, what are the things that we should keep in mind to spread the mission?
How do you build a social community to share a mission? In my experience there, with the Republic of Tea, we created a metaphor that people could belong to. So we challenged the status quo, which at the time was coffee, and Starbucks had just gone public, so specialty coffee was taking off. So we used to say sip by sip, not gulp by gulp, and sort of encourage people to defect from coffee to the Republic of Tea. So we created a story and a narrative that had some real heart and soul and kind of a journey, and people would actually participate. They would declare themselves to be an ambassador of the Republic of Tea. And it became, this was before social media, but there was a virality about it. And as I've always found in food, your best marketing is the recommendation of an enthusiastic customer. So the more you can catalyze people to have positive experiences with your food, and the more you can sort of give them the meme or the story of how to communicate it uniquely on your behalf, that's what really works to catalyze. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tell me, you guys are all Haas grads. This was a pretty special part of your lives. I know that's why you come back and give back this way. So what do you remember that you learned here that's turned out to be useful or valuable in what you're doing now?
That's easy for me. I was fortunate to run into Professor Jenny Chapman, and I would say I probably came with a little skepticism about the value of industrial psychology or behavior. But after going through her class, I ended up taking more classes in that department. I even didn't take corporate finance to take another class in that department. And I always tell people, no matter what business you do, it's always going to be about people. You can find someone who can do a spreadsheet or a computer do a spreadsheet, but if you're going to do anything and it's just not you consulting, even then it's people, you need to realize the thing that's going to drive your business the furthest is who the people you're interacting with and how you interact with them. And you cannot have enough classes, discussion, interaction about it, because it will be there no matter what you do. And so and I'm fortunate to still meet with Jenny every once in a while because she's a wonderful person, but that is the real key, is understanding the culture of your company. Annie's has it in droves. I've been fortunate enough to go on there a few times and meet some of the people there. It makes a huge difference, because if everyone in your company really believes in what you're doing, and that's why they'll come there. You don't have to pay them the most money. You don't have to give them the most luxurious place. If they feel valued, empowered, and able to make a change, they're going to work there and work very hard.
That's so funny you say that, because that's exactly the same experience I had. And also, I remember taking a class, and I remember when it was like an HR, like a psychology and like managing and leveraging people and culture class. It was taught by Chris Banks. And I remember when people said they had to sign up for it, people were complaining, this is not a marketing class, it's not a finance class. It was like the least popular class. It was by far the best class I had at Haas. I'm not kidding. And those lessons, exactly those lessons, were the best thing I learned here. I learned a lot of other great stuff too, but it's all about the people, and it's about the culture and how you leverage talent, and that's how you leverage beyond yourself, right? So to me, I had the same story.
And
different professor.
You took the Sriracha startup course, right? No,
it was an effort. For me, there's actually no particular class. There's professors. I certainly really thank them for kind of teaching me through the years. But I think it's really, I remember I did a lot of case competitions when I was at Haas, working in teams, solving problems. That resonates a lot with me now, because you're working in a team. It's about team building. It's trying to solve the problem together. So I think that's made the most impact, is doing the extracurriculars and the case competitions.
Any other questions? Yeah. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Sandra, and I was an undergraduate business major here at Haas, class of 2011. I currently work for Alter Eco Foods, which is a fair trade, full circle sustainability food company. I think I might have said food already.
Awesome chocolates.
Thank you. And I actually currently work for Lisa White, who says hi to John.
Lisa, early ops person for Annie's, yeah. 25 years ago.
My question is, on the side of the sustainable agriculture, how do you reconcile yourself with the dichotomy of the sustainable agriculture and that being a long-term benefit to the world versus the innate short-term kind of economic inefficiency of it, in that most of the stuff that's considered sustainable is more expensive and co-packing is less efficient, or not co-packing is less efficient?
Yeah, well, you have to. I'll give a quick one. So there's no doubt in the short term there's an inefficiency, and the market needs to adjust, and you need to be able to build a system that's going to have scale. We're looking at some things like we have a relationship with the largest organic dairy cooperative in the country called Crop Cooperative. You've never heard of them, but you've heard of their brand, probably Organic Valley, and we're talking with them about how do we really break out organic dairy to a whole new place so that it doesn't have to be at the kind of premium it's at now, and what would it take to do that? And it requires a real vision and some serious capital and investment in the short term, but over time you can really narrow the gap in cost between conventional and organic, and that's how you get to a place where organic can be 20% of food, maybe more. And with a much better impact on the planet. So I think it's innate to the system. You're going to have inefficiency in the short term, and I think everybody who buys organic food right now knows that, because it's relatively expensive, So how do we bust through that? You have to have big I think you need a lot of things. You need small companies to keep innovating, but you also need big companies to get behind it and actually make those investments at scale.
Do you think being a public company is compatible with a long-term vision necessary to bring about change in the food business?
Well, I ran a public company that was doing that for 3 years. It's hard, you know. The public markets are so short-sighted. There's so much about next quarter, and I think it's very difficult. I think in the context of a huge multinational global company, sure, you can do it because it's, you know, Mills will do $1 billion in natural and organic in a few years on, let's say, 15. So you can do it there, but like as a straight-up natural organic company, it's very hard. It'd be hard, yeah. Hopefully somebody will do it, but I wasn't able to.
So I mean, we're making small impact,
Yeah.
but just locally here in the Bay Area. So this is what people tell you not to do in food business, but we do it. So we actually do a once-a-year production for our sauces. So just like a winemaker, we have a harvest period for our tomatoes and chili peppers, which is generally end of summer till fall about now. We're pretty much knee-deep in tomatoes and chili peppers. And we consciously made that decision because, one, we want to support the local farmers we work with, but at the same time, what we found is the quality of the ingredients that we source when it's local is, one, tastier because they're ripe. It's not green tomatoes that are being, shipped from Mexico. And two, it helps sustain kind of the local economy. We're supporting local farmers by buying from them. So, we're making kind of small impact, but just consciously sourcing from local and sourcing as close by as we can.
And Scott, do you have a sustainable sourcing strategy or orientation to what you're doing? Or?
Well, we try to. Again, the issue is, and John knows this well, is that at the size we're in, I mean, when we think about Hershey's, Mars, Nestle, these are massive oligopoly in the candy world, essentially controlling 90% of the candy you eat. That's a blessing, too, because they stopped innovating and taught everyone to accept mediocrity as something they have to eat. So that creates a huge opportunity. But it's not like I'm going to be like Mars and having huge tracts of land in Ghana that I'm harvesting. I mean, I have to kind of go with the people I do. But we do our part by saying, let's get stuff fair trade. Let's try to source everything locally that we can. We hire locally. Because I think over time, yes, there's this challenge between economic viability for the masses, but I just look at it as an adoption curve. The early adopters who have the money now are helping to invest to build the infrastructure. So companies like Annie's now that are in place. I mean, for us, Annie's is our, you don't know this, but this is the thing I look towards and say, mac and cheese. There's a company that, who doesn't know about Kraft? Well, some of you guys are way too young, but there was this psychedelic orange Kraft mac and cheese that everyone ate for years. It stained your clothes, it ruined tablecloths everywhere. And to think that a company came along with a better tasting, white, better made mac and cheese, like mac and cheese is never going to be super vitamin pill that makes you younger and healthier, but it's at the point now where they were really early. I think we're kind of wave two, moving through the early adoption curve, but now society in the being first world society with people with money, is able to start supporting it and make choices saying, I'll pay $7 for a gallon of organic milk instead of $3 for a gallon of non-organic milk because I believe in that. And if enough people start doing that, that gives the impetus for him to have credibility with a bigger company, say we need to invest in this. And as soon as bigger companies start doing that, the reception's there. So I just look at it as an adoption curve that it will just happen over time, hopefully, if it continues moving this way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George?
Do you have time for
the
another
last?
question?
We'll do one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
Great. So I think one thing that's been really common in the food venture labs in our experience is finding really sleepy, uninnovated categories. For John, you found this sleepy Kraft orange mac and cheese, and you said, I can do better. With Sosu, you said, I want to combine these two really original flavors. With Ocho, you're saying, I'm sick of these candy bars. So what are ways and mechanisms of finding these uninnovated product categories and then blowing them up?
I don't know if there's any one way. When you look at it, what's funny about it is once somebody does it and they're successful, everyone always looks at it and goes, God, that was so obvious, right? Well, like in the juice category, you may be aware of this brand called Suja. So they did HPB, which is a processing technology that doesn't use heat, and it extends shelf life, but it creates basically a fresh juice that's shelf stable for longer. And they started selling juice in Whole Foods stores for like $8.99, $9.99, and I remember when people first saw it, we're like, that's insane. Who's going to do that? Huge success. And they basically just invented a place in the category that no one else had thought to do. And so I think it's a lot of times it's driven by somebody's vision for what they wish that category was delivering for them that they couldn't get. And they said, well, I'm just going to try to figure out how to make that. So
I was going to say Lisa's insight, I think being the first customer, I mean, you've got to have the itch yourself. I had that with tea. I mean, you couldn't get a decent cup of tea. If you'd ever gone to England and had real full leaf tea and then you come back and get a crappy tea bag, you're dissatisfied. So most entrepreneurs start from a place of dissatisfaction with the current offering. So I think just eat everything that you're not familiar with and then see what...
The idea will come to you. Yeah, exactly.
I always tell people, if they're starting any of these food businesses to make money, it's going to be an abject failure. Yeah. Like that, there's a lot easier ways to make money. Yes. My goodness. So you really have to stumble upon something you feel passionate about, and then you go and solve that problem. And then that's it. You can't just get a McKinsey consultant and have them do a food category breakout and say, this is the sector. Because that's happening already. But none of those companies really get through, or very few do, because they don't really believe it. The entrepreneurs aren't vested in the idea that this is what I'm going to do. I believe in it. I'll tell you, entrepreneur, you need luck. You need so much luck.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear you say that. You really do need
luck. In 2002, when someone pressed a secret button in Silicon Valley and said, stop funding stuff, I knew lots of very smart people who spent a lot of time,
get pushed again too,
and their companies were closed so quick. It was frightening. It was just like a random storm that just killed people. It made no sense. So it wasn't like one group of people were better. They were just lucky. And it kills me when I hear people like, oh yeah, we survived that, and they pat themselves on the back. No, it was just pure luck. There was very smart, talented people who got crushed out of funding. Hundreds of people fired immediately, and they'd all worked very hard.
You have to be around to catch the luck. That's the paradox, is you have to be so persistent to be there when the luck comes.
Yeah.
Well, a follow-up question along the same lines. If you're building a new product, a better product, are you really targeting that new incremental growth amongst a new consumer base, or do you go after that core that already buys mac and cheese, that's already buying Hershey?
Well, for our business, you want to appeal to the core, and you also want to broaden too. So we're in multiple categories. You start with I have a consumer who loves me, and they love me in this category, this category can give another one that they love, because it just makes the brand more valuable to that mom. And then we also want to extend, you want to build your audience too. We're about 10% household penetration now. We think we can get to 30. So to do that, you need to be bringing in the rings of concentric rings, or the rings out from the center. You need to broaden it, right? So it's both those things you're trying to do.
For us, it's really about differentiating ourselves. I mean, there's a lot of ketchup on the market. There's sriracha that you can get very easily. So for us, it's really creating flavors that are so different that you've never tasted before.
So one last topic to finish up. One of my favorite former students, when I first started teaching at Berkeley, Susan's here tonight, and she reminded me that one of the things she appreciated about the class, the social entrepreneurship class that we had together, was that we talked a lot about this fusion of work and life being an integral journey. So, what do you see, or what do you aspire to as a person in business and life? What's your vision, if you can share it, or maybe share a hint or a piece of advice for people thinking about how to blend their passion and their sense of purpose and their profession together to find reward and contentment and live happily ever after. Anybody else?
My focus has always been, and maybe because I was in the military for a long time, and I saw kind of the consequences, what I call the consummate military professional, traveled around a lot, been in 25 years, didn't know their kids, were really focused, and then they retired, and then life goes on, except their life was a disaster from outside perspective, what you value. And so my feeling has always been, you've got to really remember that work is something you do, but at least for me, it's my family and spending time with them. So anything you can do to create an opportunity where you can have more time to do that. And also, I think when you run your own company, you're demonstrating to your own family, especially if you have children, that, you know, there's opportunity out there if you work hard to do something. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because you're still, if you've been a good person, you're not totally, your identity isn't invested about what this company you're doing, then that's all right. Then you can recover from that, because really your source of value is coming about those relationships you have in your life, not about some ridiculous tombstone somewhere about I did these 27 things, which makes me want to vomit. Because in the day, please someone tell me the most famous person from 400 BC that was born that year. You don't know that. I mean, because it doesn't matter. We are here a very short time, and so you really just have an impact about your family and your friends. And if your job you do gives you the chance to do more of that, then that's awesome. Yeah. If it starts taking less of that, then if you're lucky enough and you can have flexibility, find something that reverses that.
Yeah, I very much agree with you, Scott. I think when I first jumped into the business, it was very much I'm passionate. You know, I want to create the products, I want to get it out there, and I made the mistake of working basically 7 days a week. Like, there was no time to really flip off the switch. It was just, this is my business, this is my passion. This is all I'm going to do for 7 days a week. And you would be checking emails on weekends and missing out on events on the weekends. It took me about a year and a half into the business when I started realizing, okay, it is my passion, but there's other passions that I have. Family, you know, spending time. So I think, especially in the food industry, people get into food because they're so passionate about food. It's not technology or it's not software. Food has a very intimate, almost kind of very close connection to you. So having that divide and knowing when to switch it off, I think is very important.
Just do what you love and integrate it in a balanced way, so you can have a wonderful life. I mean, that sounds so silly and trite, but that's kind of it. And that's worked for me. That's what I try to do. I struggle sometimes balancing, to be candid, but I think we all have our struggles. But I think that's what works.
Well, thank you for the candor, the insights, the laughs, and thank you all for coming tonight. And Cynthia, thanks for organizing this. And Davis Wright and Tremaine and Rabobank, thanks again for making this possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good evening. Drive safe.